Lanco Group is known for delivering sustainable, efficient solutions. By working closely with clients, Lanco Group is able to meet the complex infrastructure requirements for residential, commercial and industrial developments on time, on budget. Find out more at lancogroup.com.au. Lanco Group, your business partner for engineering solutions.
Are you a professional optimised business? Time to look at Northern Peugeot Bandura to further professionalise your fleet with their updated commercial van range. The team at Northern Peugeot Bandura can help customise your fleet to your business needs. Stock arriving now, so secure your van and beat the rush before the end of financial year madness. Visit northernpeugeot.com.au or call 9119 9008. T&Cs apply. You're listening to the State of Our Football Nation on FNR.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the State of Our Football Nation here on FNR. I'm Pokuah Frimpong. I'm in the studio by myself this week, but it doesn't mean we're going to miss out on any of the fabulous thoughts from George Zanikian. George, I know you're somewhere else, but you're still with us today. How are you feeling about the show this afternoon?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you in spirit and via Zoom, able to leap from Port Melbourne to the studios of FNR in Docklands. And we're delighted, of course, to have a very special guest, and he'll be with us for the opening half hour. I'm talking about a man who was one of the co-founders of Sports and Entertainment Intelligence and Measurement Agency, a company called Repucom International, which was acquired way back in 2016 by that global research and data company everyone knows about called Nielsen Holdings. And during his time, very few people know is that during his time at Repucom and as the global managing director at Nielsen, he advised a host of major brands and sporting bodies. We're talking about some of the biggest companies in the world: Pepsi, Emirates, the airline I'm talking about, MasterCard, Red Bull, the NBA, the NBL, the English Premier League, and a host of professional sports franchises. And what did he talk to them about? How to maximize their returns on sports marketing initiatives that they were all involved in. And then, of course, we saw him pull stumps and come back to Australia from overseas and took up the role, of course, of CEO at Sydney FC. And during that time, under his reign at Sydney FC, the A-League club won 11 trophies across both the A-League men's, the women's, and of course the youth. And I suppose if you think of it, it was one of the club's most successful periods, especially on the pitch. But he was also very, very quick to secure the club's financial sustainability, and he did it with a host of infrastructure projects off the pitch. And a little while after that, he realised that the scene and the marketplace in Australia was changing. He had heard about the imminent arrival. He may well have had a big hand in the arrival of a new player called the APL, the Australian Professional Leagues, which of course runs the game now. And he transitioned into that thing called the CEO. Please make him very welcome. Long intro, but most important to set the scene. Danny Townsend, good to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks, George. Thanks, Pokuah. Good to see you guys.
Remarkable time, fantastic background, and it tells me that you not only love your sport, you've always looked at making success for all those business entities that wanted to pick your brains.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I'm a sports lover. I always have been, and you know, since my time playing the game through to working in the industry, I was lucky enough to do both and spend, as you say, a best part of 15 years of my working career in Europe, North America, and Asia, and getting back to Australia to have the privilege of running Sydney FC for 5 years, and then on to hoping to build the game here into the heights that we know it can get to.
Now, you haven't had too much free air. In that first year, there were problems galore. The FA had just moved across and taken over its new space. We're leaving the room for you guys to start managing the Australian professional leagues, that is the A-League men's, the women's. Are we going to see a youth setup that is worthy and allow us to see so much more of some of this exciting young talent that Pokuah keeps talking about in the Liberty Women's, and that we're starting to see creep into the A-League men's and thrill us with some truly amazing talent.
Yeah, look, I think the youth development pathways are really starting to produce the talent that we all want to see on the pitch. You know, you see both in the men's and women's competition, the average age of our players is getting younger and younger because that investment our clubs are making in youth development is delivering on the pitch at the highest level. So, you know, the Irankundas, the Quolls, you know, there's a long list of players on the men's side, but, you know, on the women's side, they just get younger and younger and better, and it's just so great to watch. But, you know, when you talk about the A-League youth competition, we've sort of been clear that what was there beforehand, which was an 8-game season, was just not fit for purpose. And our view has always been the summer competition for our youth talent is really important, and how that orientates now with, you know, the potential of a national second division is something we're keeping a close eye on.
Well, you've given us a hint that there are new fields to conquer. You've brought back one of the grand old names called Canberra, the Australian capital, and you're going to thrill us with the idea of introducing an A-League men's team. They've had a tremendously competitive women's side there for quite some time, and of course we're hearing that there's the introduction of, dare I say it, another New Zealand crew from across the ditch, but it won't be Wellington. It's Auckland on the beautiful harbour over there near the Shaky Isles. Is there hope and an idea that, you know, we don't leave the AFL alone to shake the Apple Isle with exciting news? They're 5 years away from introducing a club. Are you shrewd enough to cut them off at the pass?
Oh, look, I think, you know, we've got to do what's right for our sport, not
No, I know, but
what others are doing. But I think, you know, the expansion process that we've gone through is around delivering A-League elite football for men and women and youth into unsort of delivered areas. And, you know, Auckland's crying out for elite football there. It's the biggest city in Australia and New Zealand without a professional football team. And Canberra's obviously got the anomaly of having a women's team but not a men's, and we want to close that.
That's right. That's right.
But look, you know, a lot of that is also about infrastructure and having the appropriate stadium to play at. No, I made it clear in the media on the back of the Albanese government announcement of the development of Macquarie Point was about, you know, having that be able to serve rectangular sports if it's going to be suitable for an A-League team in Tasmania. So we're yet to hear whether that will be the case, but that will be key in us considering Tasmania for an A-League licence.
Danny,
there's a young APL commentator by the name of Pokuah Frimpong who's had a pretty exciting season. And all I've heard every week, Danny, is the serious talent that keeps emerging and surprising us. And dare I say it, she's just about picked the entire winning final series, despite my best efforts to throw her off the scent. Yes. So I think she's got a couple of questions for you as well. Pokuah, it's all yours.
I wanted to ask Danny, in terms of the obviously the age keeps going down if in the competition, in the men's and the women's has always had a lot of young crop of players coming in. Do you think that's the position that the A-Leagues ultimately ends up in, and it's their area of growth, of finding their place in the game and not trying to potentially compete with the big leagues in Europe, but finding its spot of having a younger group of talent, developing them and then going on from there?
Yeah, I think so. I think it is a balance, though, right? I think you've got to maintain, the big names that come into this league, whether they be ex-Matildas or ex-Socceroos who are returning to Australia after a decorated career abroad, or young talent that's coming through the ranks, and a bit in between all that. And I think we've struck a pretty good balance over the years. But I do believe that, you know, there's nothing to be ashamed about being a development league. I would argue that every league in the world is a development league except for the Premier League, because every player probably wants to end up there at some point in their career, no matter where they're playing. So we need to develop talent for our national teams, both men, women and youth. That's a key focus for the APL and its clubs. But in doing that, we're going to put great talent in front of the Australian New Zealand public through the A-Leagues.
The EPL clearly is the biggest shopfront and showcase spot in the world. There's no doubt about that. What have you made of the arrival of a thing called Ted Lasso on Apple with the next World Cup coming up in the United States, Canada, and, of course, Mexico?
Yeah, look, I think we spend a lot of time actually looking at the MLS because when I look at where we're at in our journey as a professional game, we're probably about 10 years behind where the MLS is. And, they've been on a pretty meteoric rise over the last 10 years as football has become more and more popular, and they've been able to really take advantage of similar foundational strengths to what we have here. Massive participation base, massive interest in football. Their challenge was they just weren't that connected to American football as in the MLS. We're the same. We have 9 million Australians that will fill out a survey and say they love football, but we'll have 2 million of them that say they love the A-League. So we've got a big conversion opportunity to bring those 7 million football fans into the A-League. And if we can do that, then we're going to be a force to be reckoned with. I
want to ask, Danny, when you talk about that and obviously the growth pathways, is when we look at is the players the kind of telling the story of the players the way in which you're going to get those more viewers on it? Because how do you bridge the gap of that 7 million people who love football overseas, but they don't love or aren't engaged in the A-League
or haven't discovered it discovered it.
Yeah. Look, that's ultimately the challenge, and there's not one single thing you can do. It's not a switch flicking exercise. You've got to. If you look at our digital strategy, the reason we've invested in Keep Up is about creating a honeypot that we can draw football fans into, and then serve them well in their A-Leagues experience and their other football experiences. We're not afraid. The reason why you go to Keep Up, you can see articles on the Premier League, is that's all football. We're not asking people to pick one team. If you're a Liverpool fan, I'm not asking you to park Liverpool and suddenly support the Melbourne Victory. I want you to support both. And by serving them great content, engaging with grassroots community football through a digital experience is how we're going to win. We are the youngest fan base of any code in the country, which means they're digital natives, and how we serve them digitally is going to be the key to our success.
One of the great initiatives that really has shone this year, and I think Pokuah might agree here, is the All Access Pass. That has been just a terrific little window into telling some truly wonderful stories behind the scenes and taking us and touching, those families and the people and the players.
Yeah, look, that's what people want to know, right? Like, yes, the football purists, and we all want to be entertained for the 90 minutes, but it's around the 90 minutes that we really need to start bringing those stories to life and creating heroes and intrigue and mystery around different players that may appear one way on the field, but when you get behind the scenes, they're very different in their private lives. And, we've seen an amazing amount of engagement across that series, not just in the episodes themselves, but then in the social media area around that, where the conversations are being started, and short form clips of that are going viral, like we saw with the Charlie Austin, dressing room blow up. Those things are compelling viewing and great ways to bring in new fans to the A-League.
I was at the end of season function for Melbourne City at the Grand Hyatt the other weekend, and got a chance to listen to Simon Pearce talking about the year as he saw it, some of the challenges that we've had to face, and what lies ahead. But one of the things that struck me, and I remembered this from the time that I listened to Ferran Soriano when he came for the City Group to say to them, listen, we're here for the long term. And we're going to make Melbourne City champions of Australia, and we're even going to aspire to be champions of Asia. So don't think we're here just for 5 minutes. And that was a few years ago now. And Simon reiterated that looking across the entire A-League, the club with the youngest fan base that's growing at an extraordinary rate is Melbourne City. They have some, young boys and girls who are the next generation of fans, and they're coming in now.
Yeah, look, they're moving their focus out to the east of Melbourne, I think, was a smart thing to do. You know, you need to represent a geography in order to really ingratiate yourself into a community. And I think that they've made some positive steps there. Obviously, on the pitch, they've been the benchmark. You know, 3 consecutive Premier's plates, never been done before in the men's game. Ironically, first team to do it in the women's game was Sydney this year. So, you know, both those 2 clubs in their respective competitions have been head and shoulders above the rest. But yeah, certainly off the pitch, City has taken its time to get going. But to your point, their audience is young. They're working really hard in the community, and I think there are good things to come there at that club.
Also, we've seen, Pokuah and I have been thrilled to talk to Nick Montgomery from the beginning of the season, and also to Richard Peel. They are building something very special up there as well. Central Coast Mariners have had a season to remember.
Yeah, they certainly have. You know, I think credit to Monty and all the staff up there, Sean Millenkamp, Richard Peel's come in and really been a breath of fresh air, I think, up there and giving them a belief on and off the field, and it's flowing through into their football. They're a great team to watch, and they're finishing the top 2 is no mean feat, qualifying for Asia. Fantastic achievement, and still more to come with the final series ahead of us.
Go on, for Pokuah.
I've just got to ask, Danny, you said a little bit earlier that the A-League would be around about 10 years behind the MLS in terms of the competition. I want to ask, does that cover the women's game as well? Because obviously women's football's in a different spot where it's obviously had a boom in the last few years, and is particularly in England with the England national team doing really well. Where do you see the women's game in their growth, and how far behind do you see them with the rest of the world?
I think, you know, our women's competitions are at a very different level to our men's when you compare it globally. You know, it's safe to say that the A-League women is in the top 10 women's competitions in the world, if not top 5. Sadly, we can't say that about our men, but we've clearly got, you know, a much bigger competitive set on the men's side. So, you know, I think when we compare ourselves to the NWSL in the US, I think any of the players that I speak to who play in both competitions say they're very similar. You know, the difference in our environment is that the same teams compete in both competitions, which that isn't the case in the US. It's a different model. I like our model better, frankly. I think having the ability to leverage facilities for men's and women's programs and youth programs, and have men's and women's compete against the same teams week in, week out, builds rivalries, but importantly enables us to do innovative things like our club championship, which, you know, we're the first league in the world to be able to sum the men's and the women's points together to crown the best football club in this country. And that was an important step for us last year.
We've got the finals now, and we've got a very exciting grand final. We now know where it'll be. It'll be in Sydney. We still don't know who's going to be competing in it. You've always spoken about bringing events together and creating a cavalcade of opportunities and giving, I suppose, what is it, Mission New South Wales or Destination New South Wales, every chance to grab every tourist who wants to come across and, experience the joy of watching a finals or a grand final in Sydney. Anything special planned that you're just about to drop on us?
No, look, as it was
you're going to hold on to it another few days.
Oh, look, we're still working on a few different things, but look, it was well documented last week or earlier this week that an All-Stars game with Bayern Munich was very, very close to landing. To the point where we're organising charter flights and the like. So it was very well advanced until the dates changed and made it very difficult for us to do that game the way we wanted it done as to complement that week-long celebration of football. But we've certainly got other things in store that are going to encourage fans to come. We're working hard with the clubs who are still in the competition to ensure that we're providing travel packages that are specific to each of those teams, that really covering planes, trains, buses, automobiles, cruise ships, you name it. We've looked at all of them, we're confident we're going to get some pretty attractive packages if there is a requirement for a travelling club to galvanise its fan base and experience the grand final.
Will Keep Up be the lead vehicle to tell us the latest news?
Yeah, absolutely. Keep Up's where it's at. That's it's a platform that we're continuing to build and grow, and it's going to get better and better. It's still very new. It's by no means perfect, but it's certainly improving every week. The content in it now is world class. We have a really strong content team in house at Keep Up Studios who are behind the All Access program. So yeah, look, there's a lot to be excited about, George.
There is one or two questions that I want to raise. We're still having problems with the digital arm. Paramount Plus have done what they can, 10 as well, but there are times when the systems are letting us down. Are we getting on top of that? Yeah?
Yeah, look, it's a challenging one for us because we're sort of arm's length to that, and we obviously want the experience for our fans to be
But you feel the pain first.
Yeah, we do. But I think, look, the good thing is Paramount as a partner, as it may not seem that way on the outside, but what we do see what they do behind the scenes to try and move the tech stack in the direction they want to, and they've committed to doing that. We're confident that it'll get there. But yeah, it's something they're working on. But aside from that, in terms of the way the games are produced, the way they're covering the game now is really great. And we're really happy with the partnership.
I wanted to ask you, Danny, with the Festival of Football, I'm thinking about it in the terms of the women's football and the dub competition. Is the long-term goal to have that Festival of Football weekend and have the seasons both line up so it is one whole thing where, it features both competitions? Because right now it does tend to skew in the timeline of the men's competition.
Yeah, absolutely, Pokuah. That's the plan. We as we continue to invest in women's football with expansion of the competition and extension, importantly, of the competition, which means more match minutes for our young, talented athletes and more playing opportunities because there's more contracts to be signed across the competition. That will naturally mean that the seasons start to bleed into each other, which is ultimately where we want to get to with that week-long celebration of football. This year we were able to dedicate all of our efforts into the women's game, which culminated in the fantastic grand final last weekend, which saw a record crowd. A fantastic football match and, a great experience for a lot of young females who probably had never been to an A-League women's match before.
I thought the second semi that featured Melbourne City and Victory was like you couldn't get a game to impose that many challenges on two sets of fans and then provide the epic finish. We saw a penalty shootout and I'm going, No, it's been that sort of season.
Yeah, look, it had everything. Both the men's and the women's competitions this year have been amazingly close. Even the Liberty A-League women was going the last kick of the regular season really to determine the makeup of the final series, which was phenomenal, and then having the three-time premiers beaten in the opening round of the finals, and then coming back to beat Victory in a grand final replay and sort of get revenge and then go on to win the grand final. But you also had the fairy tale of Western United in their first season, demonstrating the power of the football pyramid when they connected with Calder United to create a team from scratch, to see that team go all the way and go close to a Premier's play, but then make a grand final appearance was phenomenal.
Well, Pokuah told me weeks and weeks and weeks ago, watch out for Western United. And I kept thinking, really? Can they sustain it? And she just kept prodding me.
George, it's just that I'm a believer in NPL Victoria, and I'm a believer in the talent from NPL Victoria.
Speaking
Pokuah's right, because, to think that half those players in that Western United team were playing NPL and never played in the A-League women before, it demonstrates there's some great talent out there, both in the A-League women, but also in the tier below NPL.
Do we test it with an All-Stars game, All-Stars A-League against All-Stars NPL? Would that frighten the social media world?
I think it came up today. I saw that and thought that would be intriguing. I think it's definitely something to think about.
Oh, by the way, we've got to hand out a huge kudos to both Adelaide Reds and Perth Glory for staging one of the best A-League games in the West. That 4-4 draw, I kept thinking to myself, am I watching the same game?
George, I was the same. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was just, if someone has a problem about the entertainment value of the A-League, then they didn't see that game, because I was watching that with my two daughters and we couldn't believe it. It was just a phenomenal game, a phenomenal end. That many goals in injury time, it was pretty compelling stuff.
And now, of course, we've got Disney giving us a glimpse of the Matildas behind the scenes. Again, following up from the work that Keep Up has done with the All Access, intriguing and setting us up for what promises to be a truly memorable Women's World Cup down under.
Yeah, absolutely. The Women's World Cup, I think, is going to be a phenomenon, not just for women's football, but for football in general. I don't think we really understand how big this event is. I think the opening Matildas game at Accor Stadium will have 90,000 people there.
Hang on, say that again. 90?
Yeah, I would imagine so. It'll fill that stadium and it'll set the tone for the rest of that tournament. It'll be the hottest ticket in town, and it'll serve us well. There'll be literally hundreds of thousands of young Australians who will go to a women's football match for the first time during that World Cup. And, then it's our job to convert them in and get them attending the A-League Women next season, because, they're going to be a bunch of those players that wear the green and gold that will be in our competition next year. But importantly, every single one of those wearing the green and gold will have come through the A-League Women, and that's something we're really proud of and want to capitalise on.
Just a random thought. Have we used our past NSL and A-League stars the way we can, or best use them, bring them into the fold, not leave anyone behind? Is there anything there that excites you that we can do a little bit more of? Because I know that there are still some Matildas who some believe were the originals that have been left out. I know it's not your purview, but are you thinking that maybe we need to bring everyone on board and, reset the bar, not so much reset the bar, but recalibrate to make sure that we bring this game and heal whatever schisms exist? Because I know there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. I spoke to Simon, I spoke to others. I know the various federations are starting to come to the idea that there really is only one way to go forward, and that is united.
100%. We're taking on the behemoths of the AFL and cricket and NRL, and we're doing so with the media revenues that are a small percentage of theirs. So the only way we can win is if we win together, and how we unite the football pyramid and work with the member federations, the grassroots community clubs up to the FA is going to be a key to our success. If we, I know those major, I suppose I call them Commonwealth sports, what they look at is, and what they fear is, football getting its act together. And it'd be remiss of us as administrators to allow that to happen any longer. And we're really focused on working with James at the FA and the member feds and the clubs to come together digitally and deliver a really important football experience for our football community. And that means going back and looking at, like, we invited all those ex-Matildas to our A-League Women Grand Final. They were there. It was great to see them all there. We need to do the same for our past players and the men's side as well, because our game has a checkered history, but it's a rich one, and it's got the stories all riddled all the way through that we need to tell. We are the most inclusive sport and the most diverse sport of any, and we need to celebrate that, and that's something that we're all very mindful of.
And we've got a great history. We've just uncovered for the first time in a long, long time the Anzac Trophy.
Yes,
and FNR is thrilled to bits because Ian Sison, one of our very own, started talking about this trophy that had gone missing, and lo and behold, here we are.
George, the thing I like about that is the cricket ashes are a pair of, I think the Bales.
Yep.
Whereas this Ashes was the two captains smoking a cigar in the change rooms, which is very, very...
A humidor of some renown.
That's classic football. I love it.
Wow. Danny, thank you very much for giving us so much time and also giving us a reminder that there are so many things that we can do and need to do, and also to help explain some of the things that you've done in the background, because I know that there are a lot of people, and social media is one of those exceptional platforms where you can take pot shots at people without realizing what work they've done and what work they can do and what they're putting in to make this game of ours that we love so much even better. And I just thought, let me just set the record straight and remind people that you're not an interloper. You're not brand new to this business. You've played a tremendous role with some of the biggest sporting companies in the world. And you will help us find a way, and we will get the job done. And I've been in this caper for an awful long time. I remember when we launched SBS in 1980, people said, what's this multicultural broadcaster? Well, it's still around, and it's doing niche broadcasting in a particular way. But there were many who didn't think we'd survive the first 6 months. So I know that there are knockers galore. We love this Australian outlaw background that we've had, and we love celebrity, especially if it's criminal. And when I saw the Prime Minister front up at a wedding the other day, and on one side there was Johnny Ibrahim, and then on the other side there was a convicted drug dealer, I thought, my God, the world is changing around us, and no one's told me. But we've got a game that is the biggest in the country, the biggest in the world. And I remember many years ago, a guy called Ulysses Kokinos, who was a star in the old NSL and before then, and he said to me, we had a celebrity game, and Ronald Dale Barassi, the superstar AFL man, had said to him and a bunch of others after they'd played this celebrity game, hey, we have to be very careful because this could be a giant and it could take over if we don't make sure that we keep it down. Yeah. And those words resonate to me. And as you touched on earlier, we get our act together, anything is possible. Okay. And the catalyst could be this Women's World Cup.
Yeah, look, I think there's no shortage of work being done, and I appreciate those words. I think for us is that, we'll let our work do the talking ultimately, and, people just need to realise that we all want the same thing. We all want this game to be the biggest game in the country at every level. We're going to need to do that sticking together. We're going to make decisions that aren't always popular, but there's usually a good reason for them. We're not going to be perfect. We'll make mistakes along the way. But if we all stick together, we will win. I have no doubt about it. I think I appreciate, what you guys do at FNR and keeping the game top of mind for people. And appreciate you having me on the show.
And we're also breeding that next crop of commentators and journalists who love the game, and all of them thus far, and Pokuah is one of them, who continues to grow and make a difference. So thank you, Danny. All the very, very best for the finals.
Pleasure. Thanks, George. Thanks, Pokuah. Appreciate you having me on.
CEO of the APL, Danny Townsend, giving us his time and also giving us a view about some of the things that they've done this year, and his belief that, if we stick together, we can get it done. All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, another special guest, the man who led Sydney FC into the women's final, the final of the Liberty A-League Women's, and won it for a record time, Ante Juric.
Are you a professional optimised business? Time to look at Northern Peugeot Bandura to further professionalise your fleet with their updated commercial van range. The team at Northern Peugeot Bandura can help customise your fleet to your business needs. Stock arriving now, so secure your van and beat the rush before the end of financial year madness. Visit northernpeugeot.com.au or call 9119 9008. T&Cs apply.
Since 1998, Lanco Group has been providing superior civil engineering solutions and advice to developers, local government and service authorities across Australia. Lanco Group is known for delivering sustainable, efficient solutions. By working closely with clients, Lanco Group is able to meet the complex infrastructure requirements for residential, commercial and industrial developments on time, on budget. Find out more at lancogroup.com.au. Lanco Group, your business partner for engineering solutions.
Are you looking to change your destiny in life? Be your own boss? Start your own business? If you are, you need people who understand your needs and are committed to helping you make it happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants, and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website, dkpco.com.au, or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. Fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
Are you a professional optimised business? Time to look at Northern Peugeot Bandura to further professionalise your fleet with their updated commercial van range. The team at Northern Peugeot Bandura can help customise your fleet to your business needs. Stock arriving now, so secure your van and beat the rush before the end of financial year madness. Visit northernpeugeot.com.au or call 9119 9008. T&Cs apply.
Since 1998, Lanco Group has been providing superior civil engineering solutions and advice to developers, local government and service authorities across Australia. Lanco Group is known for delivering sustainable, efficient solutions. By working closely with clients, Lanco Group is able to meet the complex infrastructure requirements for residential, commercial and industrial developments on time, on budget. Find out more at lancogroup.com.au. Lanco Group, your business partner for engineering solutions. Since 1998, Lanco Group has been providing superior civil engineering solutions and advice to developers, local government and service authorities across Australia. Lanco Group is known for delivering sustainable, efficient solutions. By working closely with clients, Lanco Group is able to meet the complex infrastructure requirements for residential, commercial and industrial developments on time, on budget. Find out more at lancogroup.com.au. Lanco Group, your business partner for engineering solutions.
Are you looking to change your destiny in life? Be your own boss? Start your own business? If you are, you need people who understand your needs and are committed to helping you make it happen. At DKP & Co Chartered Accountants, we are more than just accountants. We are business advisors, taxation consultants and strategists that specialise in setting up businesses. We understand the client and give them the very best customised advice and strategies to achieve their goals. Visit our website, dkpco.com.au, or give us a call today on 03 9023 9370. Fast, proactive, personal. That's DKP & Co Chartered Accountants.
Since 1998, Lanco Group has been providing superior civil engineering solutions and advice to developers, local government and service authorities across Australia. Lanco Group is known for delivering sustainable, efficient solutions. By working closely with clients, Lanco Group is able to meet the complex infrastructure requirements for residential, commercial and industrial developments on time, on budget. Find out more at lancogroup.com.au. Lanco Group, your business partner for engineering solutions.
You're listening to the State of Our Football Nation on FNR.
Hello, and if you just missed the first half an hour of the show, we did speak to the CEO of the APL, Danny Townsend, and you might be wondering why you can't see George right now, but George is joining us through Zoom, and lucky enough to be joined by a special guest. George, you can intro him. This is your show. I'll let you do it.
Pokuah Frimpong is my co-host and has been for quite some time. I've really enjoyed learning so much more about the game, the women's game especially. And our special guest is the man who was born in Canberra back in 1973 when things were bubbling along in the national capital. It was a much sweeter place, not nearly as busy as it is today. He's, from memory, one of our most cultured defenders. He played professionally for about 13 years. He's represented, well, just about everybody. He's represented Australia as a Socceroo, an Olyroos and a young Socceroo when the team finished fourth in the World Cup, in the World Youth Cup back in 1993. But his natural talent, I think, is basically bringing people together to play as a team. And he's been quite something. Ladies and gentlemen, thrilled to bits to talk about the manager of the history-making Sydney FC women's side, the Liberty A-League women's side, Sydney FC, Ante Juric. How are you, Ante?
Good, thanks, George. I'm a little bit humbled by that introduction, mate.
No, mate.
Thank you so much.
Mate, I'm as you know, a lifelong and tragic Sydney Olympic fan. I remember your role, the times that you played for the club. I remember you being outstanding, even playing injured, dislocated elbows. Never mind, I got a job to do. Where did that passion come from, Ante? Was it your grandfather? Was it your dad? Was it your siblings? What was it?
Probably my siblings. My dad was just a builder, never into sport. My mum drove me everywhere, but I don't think she played sport. They came from a village in Croatia. But I did start. I always say this about my brother. So when he started, he's I think 4 years older than me. So when he started, I just followed, and as a 4 or 5 year old, following your older brother just to training, and it started from there, and then backyard games and stuff like that. You can't explain it, but since then have loved it. To this day, I love it, and I'm just proud that I can be in the game still.
When you guys played in the World Youth Cup and lost to Brazil, that was a pretty hot side. Can you take us back and remind us?
Yeah, it was unbelievable memories. I just remember crying on that day. Craig
I'm
Moore,
crying now.
Muscat. Yeah, we were so close, but yet so far. I think Brazil did destroy us in that semi-final, but we hung in there until the last, I think, 4 or 5 minutes, and then they got a second, but it was a packed house in the old Olympic Park or stadium, was it Park? In Melbourne. It was just fantastic because there was a big hype as 18, 19-year-old kids, 40,000 capacity in Sydney, and to be a youth tournament, to be that big, it's exciting. But it was good times. I think Agostino, Milicic, there was a few good players in that team that obviously went on to bigger and better things. But it was fantastic. Good memories.
Can you remember any of the boys playing for Brazil?
Yeah, the biggest name was Dida. So he played for AC Milan, I think, for 15 years and stuff like that. There was a couple others who, Savio played for Real Madrid. Kate was a World Club Championship winner, I think, with Santos.
Yeah.
But, so there was a few, Gian and Jan, who were the biggest players at the tournament. I'm not sure if they kicked on to the national team, but they were huge at that time. I think they got the player of the tournaments. There were some big players. But Dida was probably the biggest in terms of, obviously going AC Milan. I think he won Champions League, went to World Cups. So it was quite huge in terms of that.
My co-host, Pokuah Frimpong, has been telling me about this hot side from Sydney and the job that you've been doing all year. She said to me, watch out for Western United. But at the end, when I asked her when it mattered most, who would get it up, she said, Sydney. So she's had a great eye. She's tough to please. The only negative, and I say this openly so people can't say I'm picking on her, she's an Arsenal fan, and I'm a Tottenham boy, and
she's lost all credibility.
I've been going through a tough time, and then you bring this up, George. We're going through a tough time. I'd say I want to ask. Obviously, I spoke to Charlotte McLean on Radio Dub earlier this season, and she talks about how the premiership was a big goal for you guys because no one else had ever done it, and you guys have managed to, and you specifically have managed to create a great culture at Sydney FC where there's constant development of your players who you can see the trajectory of their career. They come in, a lot of them are still raw talents, and they become really settled in the Sydney FC squad, and then they get to push on into Matildas like Courtney Vines and things like that. How is it that you're able to develop such a strong culture there that's able to be sustainable and replicated every season, even when there are different players that come in?
I don't know. I get asked that a lot, I guess.
Legitimate reason, Ante.
Yeah,
legitimate reason.
So.
Everyone wants a piece of the action.
Maybe. I don't know. And I don't like answering because you sound like you're a know-it-all or egotistical.
Yeah.
But I just believe in good people. If you can find good people and you do your research on that goes a huge way to culture. In football and life, there's, I call them cancerous people that are negative and down and try and find problems. I try and eliminate that, and then you're a long way there. Then you try and find like-minded people, winners. And you can see that when you're watching your players you want to target. How do they work? How do they operate? Do they work hard? Do they always try and do the right thing, disciplined? So that's, number two, I guess. And then obviously you need ability and the players that fit in. And our girls, are good people. They're good players. And I had a look at their sort of attitudes, and they're the players I wanted. Some I knew already, so I had I knew them as 14, 15-year-olds, so I knew their character beforehand. So that probably gave me the luxury of just going, yeah, let's take her. Some were, like I said, some came because I coached them in the junior Matildas and things like that. So I guess knowing what you want, that's worked for me in terms of that. And just from what I've seen in success when I was a player and what you see around the world, you need those things in a team. So good people that work hard, are selfless, and that creates a good culture. I remember Ange once saying to someone, or I overheard it, and I actually thought, that's 100%. Without knowing the way you build culture, he said something, you can't build culture, but you got to bring in good people. And I thought that's spot on, because the people make the culture, even though it's driven by leaders. But if you've got crap people in your environment, it doesn't matter what you do or what you say, they're not, they'll only follow when it suits themselves. So I'm proud of what we've got.
And you know what you're doing? You're effectively reiterating what Ange Postecoglou and others of that ilk, that top-end ilk, have always... Look, even Pep will tell you, he's always looking for great characters.
Yeah, 100%.
People of character and people with that hunger, not to be troublemakers, but to be winners. And I've said it in business and I say it in life. And we have a tremendous crew at FNR. And over the last half a dozen years, we've sprouted the fact that we're the voice of the game as best we can. But the most important thing is we're breeding the next crop of young journalists and commentators. And each one of them is happy to work with the other. And I think that's also a great thing, isn't it? The ability to work together.
Yeah, enormous. And again, being selfless, doing things for each other rather than yourself. I do that as a coach, and I think that I hope and I think it works, and I'm sure it does. It's where I'm selfless. I'm not above anyone. My girls know that I care about them, that I'll do anything. I'll pick up every water bottle if I have to. So you lead by example, you're humble, and then they do the same to you and for each other. I totally agree with what you just said.
And
State of our Football Nation on FNR, our special guest, Ante Juric, the history maker at the Sydney FC, the Liberty Women's A-League champions, 3 years running. Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's how it works. Aiming for 4, but yeah. Wow. I've always thought premierships, even though the grand final was sweet, let me tell you, but I've always thought premierships are more important. And even though I live in Australia and we live in Australia, but win the premierships year after year just shows you are the best team in the nation, regardless of what happens in a grand final. But that's me and old school.
No. You be as old school or new school as you like. Pokuah's not complaining. She understands that the side that can cope with all the challenges thrown at it, with injuries, with refereeing decisions, with bad luck, life is about solving problems and bouncing back from bad times. And each season, you as Pokuah said, despite whatever happens, you seem to have this knack of getting them back year in, year out, and delivering the goods. And that's wonderful.
Yeah, and it is. And credit to obviously the girls and the staff. But one of the biggest things on top of that, which is what you said is 100%, is when you are successful, and this is probably what I draw on a lot recently, is when you are successful and you're on top, it is damn hard to stay there. And not many people do it. Some often win one and then they don't win for a couple of years. So that's what we draw on. That's what our goal is, to keep succeeding when everyone wants to beat you. every single game, everyone's playing maximum against you. So to be in a psychological place to keep going is special, and that's what I'm really, really proud of, and why I'm proud that we've won these premierships and obviously now the grand final this year.
I want to ask, Ante, in terms of, obviously the landscape of the dub is changing with a lot of more players leaving and going abroad, and a lot of other teams in the competition getting international players and bringing them in. How does that change up the way you look ahead for Sydney FC? Obviously, you signed the extension with the club, extension of getting in new players from abroad and the scouting process, because obviously you've brought in Madison Haley this season and she's been incredibly successful even though she had that little spell with injury. How do you go about that and finding those players and still keeping yourselves at the top of the, essentially being the leaders in the pack?
Yeah, well, firstly, I try to predominantly keep the squad as Australians. So if I can get 22 players that are all Australian, I will do that. Last year I think we had one foreign, and the year before we had none. This year we had Anna Green and Maddie Haley. So if I believe we need something, which was the case, especially with Maddie, where I couldn't find a 9 within Australia, I knew Remy would leave to go to Leicester, so we knew that before the season. So I had to find something. So. And then it's just a matter of scouting, or people sending you in videos and you analysing those, and then deciding what to do. And I'm not a fan of bringing in just any kind of foreigner. I'd rather keep the Aussies if I had to, or use a young player. But Maddie fit in well, and we definitely needed her this year, and she was a big difference in the grand final.
Ante Juric is our special guest. We spoke to Danny Townsend, who, of course, is the CEO of the APL, the Australian Professional Leagues, which run the A-League men's, the women's. And we talked about a whole bunch of things, but one of the things we touched on was the Women's World Cup and its ability to act as a tremendous catalyst to boost the game. Do you think it will? I think a lot of people don't have no idea how big it's going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be enormous, but I don't want to be negative here, because I'm sure we will do something, but you've been around a lot where we've been on a high. I've been in the game for 40 years, 30 years, I guess, playing and coaching. There's been so many highs, even our youngs, when we were in the World Youth Cup, there was other things happening when we've done well in World Cups, or and even the girls that had a big high a few years ago. We just don't capitalise. So I hope Danny's a smart operator, in my opinion. It's definitely something we can capitalise on. We just need to be smart and capitalise on it. It's easier said than done, probably, I guess, because I'm not in that position. I don't know exactly what you have to do, but we need to get sponsors in. We need to get facilities in, use the government, where we can. But I don't think we've capitalised in the past. So, yes, I'm very confident. I hope we do it, but I don't want it to be all talk, or in a year's time we say, oh, you know what, that was great, but that's all. There was just memories, but we haven't done things to go forward. Fighting
words from Ante Juric. I love it. Pokuah tells me there's a Canberra men's team coming, Ante.
Yeah, I know. I hope so. It's a bit of a dream of mine to see them in, and while I'm at Sydney, I obviously support Sydney, but if a Canberra team came in, I'd support them, and who knows, one day maybe be around for that. But I'm so, because I was born and bred, and I left Canberra when I was 19, and my family's still there, so I have a soft spot for Canberra, and I always go home. So
where was your home ground? Where was your home ground in Canberra?
Well, I played for Canberra, Croatia, so they played in the New South Wales comp when I was growing up. So Deakin Oval back then.
That was it got cold there.
Yeah, Canberra was cold in general. Yeah, it was very cold, but Ned Zelic came from there. George Pokuah played there. There's a few. So Joe Simonic. So it's a big club in terms of getting a few players through to a huge stage.
How many years difference is it? How many years difference between you, Ned Zelic, and Simonic?
I think it's about 3 each way. So I used to look up to Ned, and he was only like.
He'd like to hear that.
He'd
like to hear that.
And I'm 16, 17, and I remember having, back in the day, there was no internet or anything. I used to just cut paper clippings out when he was in the newspapers because he's a guy that played for Australia at 19, and I'm like, and I sort of played like him. Yeah, he was like a god to me. And then Simonic, I just remember Simonic. funny enough, he was like 13 or 14 doing juggling at halftime during the games I used to play when I was in first grade, in Canberra, Croatia there. So, yeah, probably 3 or 4 years difference from me to Ned, and then younger was Sip. So, yeah.
Yeah, look, it's been – I was just going to say, Pokuah wants to jump in.
No, I was just going to say, Ante, I saw a photo of Courtney Vine wearing a shirt with you and your playing days on there. Are we going to get – if there's a new Canberra team, are we going to see the return of Ante on the football pitch? Is that what's going to happen?
Ooh. Oh, if you saw me – you've surely seen photos of me recently. There's no chance of that. No, I wish I could play. It's the best thing in the world, but definitely won't be playing. I've got no pace. Walking football maybe, but that's as far as I'll go.
There's a guy called Peter Catholis. He must be, what is he, 60?
Oh, I don't know.
Well,
but I think
I reckon he could still play for Apia in the NPL.
Yeah. Well, they had a Legends game, I think, Olympic and Apia 3 weeks ago, and they invited me, but I can't even run. So
no, you're smart. You're smart.
Yeah.
You're smart.
Those days are over. I don't want to embarrass myself, actually.
No.
Now they go.
Listen, that's shrewd. Can I just say to you, with this contract that you've signed, if you fulfill this, it's you, it's Alan Stajic, 1-2. That's not a bad effort for a young boy who, thought about doing this and that. That'd be a tremendous achievement, because Alan has done some wonderful things and continues to do some wonderful things with the Philippines.
Yes, Staj is a good mate of mine, actually, and we've crossed paths a lot and even worked together a bit with the Matildas and a few things before. Obviously, he was moved on and I was moved on there. It's good guys, successful, very, very hardworking, and he's in the Hall of Fame of Sydney FC. So hopefully one day I can follow. I think my record's better than his now. I've got to him up about that. I think I've overtaken him. But I think he's got more games coached. But I think maybe I've got more trophies now. But but he's a legend. So I'm.
You know what that reminds me. It reminds me that your combative juices haven't diminished, and it explains why you're still winning, my friend. Listen, can I just say thank you very much for giving us the time. What's next, Ante? I know there's a contract, but what's next?
Well, someone asked me that after the grand final, going, Ante, so what do you want to do and achieve, and what's because you won everything, and surely you want to look elsewhere. While I'm involved, obviously you want to potentially take national teams or something, but if that happens, it happens. But I'm happy at Sydney. I'm happy doing what I'm doing, and the next goal is to win another double, because no one's ever done it. The next goal is to get as many of my girls in the Aussie team. Like, there's always something if you have that drive, and that's what you're about. And there's never going to be a day where I'll go, I've done everything, because that's never true. Why can't we get 5 premierships in a row? So I'm always looking forward and beyond.
Before we let you go, Ante, obviously you've got a decent amount of players at the moment who've been there in the last 3 years, who are in the Matildas, run at the moment, or in and out. Who is a player from your current squad that you think probably deserves, maybe a little bit more recognition? Because I look at a player like Mackenzie Hawkesby, and for me, she's one of the most crucial parts to any team, and particularly your team, going forward and even going back, and she's so skillful. Who's a player that you think deserves a more look in for the Matildas?
It's probably, I'm going to say all of them deserve it, but the most ready for now is Macca, 100%. Charlotte McLean, 100%. Princess, 100%. Jada, 100%. And I'll probably add Tobin, 100%, who are ready to be in any camps or any kind of games easily.
That's good.
The rest of the 5, eventually in 2 or 3 years, Charlie Rule, Fenton, and I'm only going through the starters and recently Hunter. These girls, in my opinion, will be the new Sam Kerrs and Van Egmans and the new era. And so that's what I'm really proud of, because I know they'll be national team players and everyone will know them in 2 or 3 years if they don't know them already.
Ante, bless you, my boy. All the very best going forward. Have a great break. How long before you start training them again?
Well, it depends when we start, probably 2 or 3 months, because I think we were in a Champions League, make-up Champions League thing now, which is good, which is a first for a while. I heard that's in sometime, maybe October or November. So, maybe August or something we'll get together again. But there's a bit of time with women's football because obviously it's not a lot of weeks in the season. So but a couple of months.
Time for you to get fit, huh?
Yeah, 100%. Someone said that the other day. I need to get fit before the next season. So 100%, yeah. Let's do that.
Bless you, mate. Well done. Ante Juric, our special guest, joining us on State of Our Football Nation. Until next time, Ante, all the very best in the off-season.
Thanks.
And
thanks for the chat. It was good.
Our pleasure. Pokuah, you did awfully well holding this thing together.
No, all you, George. I take from your lead, absolutely.
Until next week then, Pokuah. Thank you so much. Bye, Ante.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're listening to the State of Our Football Nation on FNR.